Check 1 2, check 1 2. Let me know if you can hear me okay. This is Derek Bros going live for the first time on my Facebook page, which we just brought back today. Due to the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic, after deleting my Facebook page, I decided it was time to bring it back. There's a lot of important things happening in the world right now, and I want to talk with you guys about that. Before we get into that, though, give me a thumbs up, heart, something. Let me know you can hear me okay. And I'm going to go ahead and share this on my other pages. And if you guys are admins of any pages that want to hear some truth about what's going on with COVID-19, the coronavirus pandemic, and some of the agendas that I think that we're seeing unfold here, then please do share this out if you can. But first, give me a thumbs up. Let me know I'm coming through okay, that my mic's working all right. And I do want to say first, before we really get into it, I'm thankful to everybody who has chimed in and let me know that they appreciate my work. And well, I'm really thankful to those of you who never stopped following my work, even after I left Facebook. Cool. Glad to know you can hear me okay. Each of you who kept following me even after I left Facebook and signed up for my text list and signed up for my other work, follow me on my YouTube channel and all that good stuff, because this is important. It's important to follow, I think, outside of Facebook. This was my main message that I was trying to get to you guys before I left Facebook. And maybe now more of you guys are seeing the fact that information related to COVID-19, the pandemic, is being censored. Lots of people who are trying to get accurate information are finding themselves censored. And those of us who are reporting on things that aren't typically discussed in the mainstream are also finding ourselves dealing with censorship and things of that sort. Give me just 2 seconds to post this real quick. And how's everybody doing? Let me hear you. Let me see you in the comments. And yeah, I really do miss a lot of you guys who I'm used to talking to through Facebook. And I'm thankful again to everybody who followed me elsewhere. Those of you who follow me on YouTube. YouTube is where I'm mostly active. I put out videos Monday through Friday. And it's been an interesting couple of weeks, to say the least, as I continue to bring you guys important information about what's going on with COVID-19. So tonight, let me just go ahead and set this, I guess, the ground rules for tonight. I am here in Mexico right now. I've been in Mexico since yesterday morning. Of course, today we got the announcement that the borders were being closed down. And we got the northern border closed down. We got the southern border being closed down. And I've been putting out constant videos on my YouTube channel. For those of you who follow on YouTube, then you've been seeing that. For those of you who follow my website, theconsciousresistance.com, The Conscious Resistance, then you're very familiar with the work I've been talking about. I've been talking about Event 201, which was the exercise that took place prior to this whole thing going down. Yesterday I put out a new video called "It's Time to Reject the New Normal," and I honestly think it's probably one of the most valuable videos. If you guys haven't seen this, I'm just going to show you my computer right here. This is the Conscious Resistance website. It's time to reject the new normal. Sorry about the crap video. I want you guys to go visit it. You'll see the video there, or if you're on my YouTube channel, you'll see it as well. But my point is, I've been putting out videos about this for a couple of months now. The first video I put was February 4th, and it was called The Coronavirus Blowback. Forced vaccinations and other things of that sort. And so I was hearing about this back in January, and a lot of my friends and allies and journalists we were keeping an eye on this whole situation. And we knew that, well, for one, we knew that we were being lied to. You know, whether that means you're being lied to about the virus being much worse, or lied to about it being not as bad. I'll let you guys know that we were being lied to and that the public wasn't being given happening. So I've been putting out constant videos, just staying on top of this. And I've also been trying solutions and talk about how do we survive and thrive during this crazy times. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And other than that, I want to answer your questions. We are live now on wakeupnews.com. The Wake Up News Facebook page. Thank you to Zach for letting me go live there. We're live. I recently started using the Conscious Resistance Network Facebook page again after stopping using that for almost 2 years. And obviously I turned this page on back after a couple of months. So why would I turn these pages back on after making such a big deal about leaving Facebook and trying to get more of you to leave? Unfortunately, a lot of you didn't leave and didn't follow me elsewhere. But why would I put so much back? Well, because we are dealing with some unprecedented shit right now. I'm just going to keep it real. And you guys know me. I don't censor myself. I know that we have some young ones watching. Shout out to Larissa and Izzy. Thank you guys for all that you do in Houston, and to everybody, my friends and family in Houston. Because the reality is, guys, I don't know when I'm going to see you again in person. I came to Mexico. I made a decision to be here because I felt like I'm going to be safer here than I will in the United States because of what we're about to discuss. But now that the borders are locked down and they're saying this could last a year, this could last through the summer, it could last a while, I don't know when I'm going to see my brother in person, my family, my nieces and nephews, my friends. And that's just a choice. Even if I was in Houston, I might be on lockdown. I might not be able to see my friends and family. But so again, the question is, why would I come back after all this? It is because we are dealing with, from my perspective, and I think all the evidence backs this up for those of you who aren't totally indoctrinated by the corporate mainstream media, the agenda that I have been researching for 10 years now, and that some of you are aware of, the fact media. We have criminals that prop themselves up as, the leading scientists and the philanthropists and the people that we should worship and we should look up to. Many of them are criminals. Many of them pretend to be Christians. They're fake-ass Christians. Many of them pretend to be, men of God and men of spirit or women of God and things of that sort. They parade themselves around as if they're the heroes. We're all to them as heroes. Whether this is celebrities or just, like I said, influencers, politicians, priests, media people, bureaucrats, people who are criminal. They do not have our best interest at heart. And I think now we are witnessing, this is the next 9/11. For those of us, I'm 35 years old. For anybody who was alive and maybe in the range of 15 to 20 years old when 9/11 happened, or maybe older than that, of course, you remember life before 9/11, and you remember how life changed after 9/11. We are being prepped for what they're calling the new normal. The new normal being on quarantines. I do think that all of this plays also into the forced vaccination agenda. It's pretty clear that a vaccine is going to come. Now, they say this vaccine might take a year from now, right? But if they spend the next year, let's imagine people terrified and afraid of COVID-19 spreading. And again, I'm not here to say, I don't think it's completely fabricated. And also, for those who think it's 5G, I don't think COVID-19 is related to 5G. I've done a couple of videos on my website, which is, again, theconsciousresistance.com, where I've gone through those claims. Apologies for any background noise. Again, we're here in Mexico, and it's kind of loud outside. But I have been researching all this since the agenda started rolling out, and I can see that this is not just about saving people's lives. This is not just about keeping us safe. It's about, and their agenda is control. The agenda is complete monitoring and control, manipulation of our lives. That's the agenda. That's what it's been for years. Excuse me for a second. I think now that we have COVID-19, it's got people so scared they're willing to accept almost anything, right? Like I said, if they spend the next year telling everybody that anybody who has COVID-19 could make you sick, could end up ending your life, when they roll out that vaccine, how many people do you know that are going to line up and rush to get it ASAP? The lines for treatment and for testing are already, thousands of people lined up around the country and around the world. But sometimes the cure is worse than the illness, I think, is a good way to say it. And look, this is the thing. I believe in voluntarism. If you want to get a vaccine, that should be your choice. But for those of us who don't trust the people who make the vaccines, like, say, Bill Gates or Big Pharma, we don't trust their agendas, and we already know that there are valid questions about the current vaccines that exist, we have plenty of reason to be skeptical about the push for this vaccine. And I think what's going to happen is those of us who choose not to get vaccinated, we're going to be penalized. We're going to be shamed. They're going to tell us that that we're the bad ones, that, do you want to spread disease? Do you want to spread virus around? And whether or not they make it actually mandatory, where they literally will hold you down and force vaccinate you, which, by the way, I should say, for those of you who didn't know, because this is a global crisis, Denmark has already passed through a law which says that they can force vaccinate people. Denmark has already said that they can quarantine you. In China, they were literally welding people's doors shut and dragging them off the streets. Do you really think the United States won't do that? Do you think your neighbors who have been that you're crazy for questioning vaccines, or you're crazy for defend you? Are they defending you now? Are they standing up for you at all? No, they're not. They're probably going to be the same people who will cheer it on. And if they if the media and the government convince your family and your friends, the people that we love and care about, that you are the problem, that your vaccine hesitancy, flashback to 2019, who remembers that the World Health Organization told us that one of the top 10 threats to global health was vaccine hesitancy. They spent all of 2019 pushing hardcore about anti-vaxxers and pushing this idea that, vaccine exemptions need to be removed and we need to have mandatory vaccinations because of measles. That was for measles. How do you think they're going to act for COVID-19? We are moving closer to the completion of what some people call the New World Order. I don't really like using that phrase because it gets tied up into right-wing conspiracy theories, but it's a reality. The people that control and manipulate the world, they don't give a damn about the United States. They don't give a damn about Russia or China. These are all, the nation states are like Zbigniew Brzezinski and Henry Kissinger, and these people have said before, we're like pawns on a chessboard to them, okay? So there's a bigger agenda unfolding here. While they have all of us distracted, and even the truth community debating about, well, is it real? Is it fake? Is it 5G? Was it a bioweapon? Was it this? Was it that? The agenda's rolling forward. The agenda is rolling forward. I'm going to pull up a real quick website if I can. Who here has heard of United Nations Vaccine Agenda 2020? Let me see. I know a lot of you guys have heard of the Agenda 2030, but how many of you have heard of the idea that the World Health Organization is going to push for not only a global vaccine, but they have this thing called Agenda ID 2020. Have you heard of ID 2020? It's being funded by the World Health Organization. It's being funded by Gavi, which is a global organization that pushes vaccine. And essentially what it comes down to, guys, is whether or not the vaccine is forced, they are going to make you can't operate in normal society unless you have a vaccine, unless you've been vaccinated for COVID-19. Now, this is just my speculation here as to where the plan's going on, but you can rest assured that whether it happens with this crisis, it's going to happen in the future because the government operates under this motto: you never let a good crisis go to waste. That was said by Rahm Emanuel, who was in former President Obama's campaign. He said, you never let a good crisis go to waste. And sometimes crisis presents an opportunity for you to do things that you wouldn't normally be able to do. So typically, if they just push the idea of a mandatory vaccination, you have a big kind of movement growing in the country. You have a big 5G awareness movement growing. There's a big protest movement. You got the yellow vest and you got big protests in Hong Kong. Well, now you have a pandemic spreading the world. Everybody's being told to lock themselves in. The economy's being wrecked. We are witnessing the reorganizing of the global structure. We are witnessing the push for, as I said, a global ID. Here's the article. This is coming from Global Research. I'll post the link if you guys want to see it. The coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. The real danger is Agenda ID 2020. For those who want to learn more about that, I'm not going to get sucked into all the details. Again, for those of you who are tuned in, I know we got a lot of people who are tuned in and are wondering, who the heck is this guy talking to me? My name is Derek Bros. I'm a journalist from Houston, Texas. You can follow my page, Derek Bros. I also am the founder of the website, theconsciousresistance.com, the YouTube channel, The Conscious Resistance Network. And I work with Wake Up News and plenty of other websites, The Mind Unleashed. So you probably have read my articles at one time, or not, you know it. But I'm coming back here to Facebook after a couple of months away because I realized that despite my hatred for Facebook and for recognizing that it's not a good platform that I want to support, I also know that right now we are dealing with some unprecedented stuff that's never happened before, and I'm really afraid for what's coming. Not afraid in the sense of, oh, I'm panicking and I can't operate. No, I'm recognizing that everything that I've been preparing myself for mentally, physically, is coming in this year, next year, in the coming weeks, months, and years. Think about this, guys. Would you ever imagine that you would be able to, that the government would be able to lock everybody down and get people to go along with it, right? I mean, after 9/11, when the terror attack came, they pushed through the Patriot Act. And it wasn't just the United States. For those of you who are listening outside the United States, you felt the impact, whether you live in the United States, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, where you felt the impact because 9/11 launched the war on terror. And what did Donald Trump say the other day? We're at war with an invisible enemy. Now we're at war with a virus. Now we're at war with this unseen enemy. And we have to do unprecedented things, right? Again, the crisis presents an opportunity to do things that you couldn't do before. This agenda forward at breakneck speed. And when you start to understand the pieces of this, because look, you got to get outside of the corporate media. I know most of the audience here, you guys are probably outside of the corporate media. You already understand this. And we also have to temper it with balance too, because honestly, I've realized through this coronavirus pandemic, some of you guys will believe anything to be real. Some of you guys have thinking skills and you believe anything. You literally will believe anything. So you have to be able to think critically, because just because you know that there are criminals in government and they would like to force vaccinate you and they have a depopulation agenda and they want to wreck the economy and they want to have a surveillance state at what I call the technocratic state where they can control and monitor every piece of our lives, doesn't mean that every story you see on the internet is true. And just because the mainstream media lies, they've lied to us about the Iraq war, weapons of mass destruction, they lied to us about Syrian gas attacks, but that doesn't mean every single story from mainstream media is fake either. I see people who believe everything from the alternative media, and they think everything from the mainstream is a lie. And then on the other, people who believe everything they see from the mainstream media and think that, oh, you read that on the internet, oh, you read that on YouTube, oh, you saw that on YouTube, of course it's fake. That's not how things work. You got to be a critical thinker. You have to be willing to see what the mainstream's talking about, look at the independent media, use discernment, use critical thinking, and then put the pieces together for yourself. Don't let the politicians, the priests, the pastors, the YouTubers, the Facebook commentators think for you. Think for yourself. I mentioned a couple of minutes ago the immunization, exactly, be a free thinker. Immunization 2030. So check this out. See if it comes in clear. Immunization Agenda 2030. A global strategy to leave no one behind. This is from who else? The World Health Organization. And so I can post this link if you guys want to find it, but otherwise just look this up. Immunization Agenda 2030, a global strategy to leave no one behind. And it basically just talks about how they want to vaccinate everybody in the world. We imagine a world where everyone, everywhere, at every age, fully benefits from vaccines to improve health and well-being. And again, these terms, the information that they put out there, it's always going to be couched. That sounds really good. So if you show this to your mainstream uncle or aunt or sister or brother, they're going to be like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. They say they want to vaccinate everybody for our health and our well-being. I mean, you must be think that they're trying to make people sick or they're trying to force people to take vaccines. No, this is to help us. Bill Gates just wants to help us. He predicted that so bright and brilliant and thinks that he can save the world. It's a little bit deeper than that, right? So that's what I'm saying is when you look at the COVID-19 stories, you have to be able to put it into context of understanding what their agendas were prior to this thing going down. And I'm telling you, this event, it checks off so many of the boxes of the New World Order, the deep state, whatever frame you want to use. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not going to get sucked into that whole discussion. You have to be able to think about this critically. And like I said, this pandemic, it's crashing the economy. Donald Trump and the Federal Reserve are pumping trillions of dollars. Did you trillions and billions of dollars, like numbers that we can't even really truly understand, into the economy. More money than we saw pumped into the economy in 2008 when some people at that time were saying, hey, the banks got bailed out, the people got sold out. Now, nobody bats an eye. they just pump a bunch of fake money into the economy. They bail out Wall Street because they say they have to save the global economy because everything's crashing. And nobody even bats an eye because people just want to make sure they're safe from a pandemic. It's incredibly easy to convince people to do things that they normally wouldn't when they're afraid and when they're fearful of something. You could swoop in and be the savior of the day, right? So it's crashing the economy purposefully, I would say. And some people will say, and I think there's some credible sources on this, that the economy was already on the way down. And in fact, the global pandemic is kind of providing a cover for that in a way, because you can just blame the economy crash on the pandemic. And at the same time, it pushes forth this idea that it pushes forth the surveillance agenda. 5 months ago, 1 year ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, think about how the American people would have responded if you said, we're going to lock you all in your house, we're going to force quarantine you. Most people would have been, yeah, right, that's crazy. That'll never happen here in the United States. And here we are, the entire state of California. You got National Guard in 20 plus states around the country. Over in Rochelle, New York, and probably other places, they're going door to door and feeding people. And it's at the point now that the U.S. government, Donald Trump, and the mayor of Houston, where I'm from, has been having to debunk rumors and say, we're not going into martial law, we're not going into martial law. But at the same time, they're pushing some crazy, crazy ideas that are really scary. And I think these are things that we need to question. I'm just going to show you guys a couple of things on my website again, because I'm trying not to repeat myself too much, because I've spent the last 2-3 weeks, a month or so, putting out videos on this, and I would like for you guys to go look at the videos because they're a little bit more well thought out. I'm kind of just doing this top of my head, off the top of my head. So I apologize if I'm kind of thinking in circles or talking in circles. And guys, I appreciate all of you. Can I get a thumbs up? Can I get some shares? Let's get some interaction here. I'm reading all the comments. I'm looking at them. I appreciate all the comments. But let me show you a few of the articles that I've done and get you guys to think about the bigger picture here. So, and for those who are saying it's kind of glitchy, I'm in Mexico right now on a Wi-Fi signal without that great a signal. I tried to do this on YouTube yesterday. It didn't work out great. But I did this report a couple of days ago. COVID-19. Whose bioweapon is it? Talking about the various reports that what we're dealing with is a bioengineered weapon that may have been released by the U.S., may have been released. We really don't know at this point. And this one a couple of days ago, it's called COVID-19 Bank and Universal Bank Income, Universal Basic Income. Have you guys noticed the long lines at the banks? Have you guys noticed that Chase Bank and other banks are starting to close down some of their locations? You should get your money out of there as soon as possible. And yes, thank you, Desiree. If you guys haven't seen my website is theconsciousresistance.com, theconsciousresistance.com. And somebody just mentioned my documentary. This is my documentary for those of you who might have seen it, The 5G Trojan Horse. It's actually factual information, fact-based information about what's going on with the whole 5G situation. Now, this is another report I did a couple of days ago. Anybody recognize that face right there? That's Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner. Earlier this week, Houston City Council voted to give the mayor indefinite emergency powers. Yep. And what was the excuse for this indefinite emergency powers? COVID-19 pandemic. We got to keep everybody safe, right? So the mayor needs emergency powers. And you know what? When to say, hey, how about we check on this once a week and make sure it's still necessary? Nope. Give him indefinite powers that'll never expire and that can be used in any kind of way. And for those of you who remember, one of the issues I talked about was making sure that Houston would never support and never have mandatory vaccinations. And now the mayor has indefinite emergency powers to do whatever he can to protect the people of Houston from COVID-19. And I called the city's office the other day to ask them if this has, and they basically hung up on me. I didn't get an answer. You can find it all in this video. Again, the website is The Conscious Resistance. And I did this one as well. This is the solutions. For those of you who follow my work, I like to talk about solutions. I don't want to just be all, it's not about fear porn, it's about education. If you want solutions, this video I put out called Freedom Cells, Surviving and Thriving During a Pandemic. I don't want to get sucked into too many other side conversations, but if you don't know what freedom cells are, visit freedomcells.org. Let me see if I can type that into you guys without screwing the video up. It's a simple way to connect with other activists, to find people in your area It's a new website that we built, and if you have any issues getting on it, just let me know and we'll get it worked out. But it's a website for you to connect with people in your local area so we can build decentralized groups, what I call free cells or mutual aid groups or hubs or circles, so that when the shit hits the fan or something like this, you have a core group of people to work with. This is a concept I've been promoting for the last 4 years, and it's more important than ever right now. And if you're looking for solutions, especially while we're being forced isolated and forced quarantine, you need to check out freedomcells.org. There's a playlist of videos you can learn all about that. I also did this report, Event 201 unfolds, COVID-19 action platform equals global government. Event 201, I'm sure you guys have heard about it by now. It was the exercise that was simulated in October 2019, where the World Economic Forum, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Johns Hopkins University, they just so happen, coincidentally, to simulate what would happen if a coronavirus pandemic happened around the world. Imagine that. And they simulated what would take place. And they thought about it. They even talked about what would happen if disinformation started spreading around the world. You know what they did? They said, well, then we're going to have to censor the internet. We might even have to arrest people if they spread disinformation. And if you understand Event 201, and if you watch that video, you can see that Event 201 is basically the script that they seem to be following. We found out over the last couple of years, there have been several simulations and exercises. There was one called Clade X. There was another one I just heard about today called Crimson Contagion. And, let's just play devil's advocate for a second. I know some folks will say, well, Derek, viruses are a real thing. Pandemics could happen. Bill Gates said that we're facing a pandemic. So why wouldn't the governments get together and prepare and think about how to handle it? Okay, you could argue that and say, yeah, that makes sense. Governments should be prepared in case, a pandemic happens. How are they going to handle it, right? But if you're somebody who's been paying attention for a while and you remember that during 9/11, when we were told the United States was attacked by terrorists from caves in Afghanistan, the United States also to be running exercises, simulations on that same day, including simulations for hijacked planes. And you might also know that during the Oklahoma City bombing that happened in the 1990s, there was also an exercise simulating that. You might also know that during the Boston bombing, there was another exercise that just so happened to take place, simulating similar things. And so my point here is it seems that every time that some big event happens, you can bet. Sure enough, there either was an exercise simulating something very, very close to what actually happened on literally the same day or months ahead of time or around the same time. And I mean, it's insane. Like I've tried to just discount it in the past. But come on, guys, you're a little paranoid. There's no way. But I'm telling you, just do the research, do your homework, and you start to see every time one of these major events happens, it just coincidentally there's some simulated exercise. And what it seems to be is that they are the people, in control, the powers that wish they were, because we are the real power. They like to run these exercises. And I think on a spiritual level, it's kind of like they're mocking us. They want to put it in front of our faces. I mean, think about that. Event 201 literally simulated a coronavirus pandemic back in October. So let's put all these events in context. October 18th, 2019. Event 201 simulates a coronavirus pandemic taking place. They talk about how they would handle it. They talk about arresting people who spread false information. They talk about martial law. They say that the pandemic, the virus, spreads around the world for 18 months and 65 million people. At that same time, in October, we also had the World Military Games, where over 100 nations were in, guess what? Wuhan, China. They were in Wuhan, China for these World Military Games. Now, if somebody wanted to release a bioengineered weapon, like, I don't know, a virus, and you had 100 countries gathered together, seems like that might be a good time to get something to quickly spread around the world. Coincidentally, Wuhan, China, which is where we're told, this whole thing originated from bats. Wuhan, China also happens to have a bioweapons lab right there in that same area. So Event 201 simulates a coronavirus pandemic. World Military Games are held in Wuhan, China. Wuhan, China has a bioweapons lab. Um, After that, in November, and I'm sure some of you guys have seen this, the CDC posted a job listing looking for a pandemic officer that was going to start serving in November through May 2020. Now, separately, all these points could mean nothing. It could just be coincidences, right? But again, once you understand the way these folks work, you can start to see the picture. And like I said, this agenda, it seems to check off a lot of boxes. Check, destroy global economy, push for global currency. How many of you guys have heard that cash is bad lately? How many of you have heard that? That cash is bad. That, cash is dirty. Like let's really, let's be real about it. Cash is dirty. It's, considered one of the dirtiest things in the world. But the people in control, they want to move us towards a technocracy, which is a world run by technocrats, which is run by the scientific dictatorship, just experts, and they want to use technology to control our lives. We're already living in a digital dystopia. We're already living in a world in trade. So that's a fact of the matter. But now they want to push us towards a global currency where you can't transact money or do anything by the state. They want to make sure that all of us have had the vaccines that they require. And part of that, I just showed you guys the United Nations Agenda 20, Vaccine Agenda 2020. They want to make sure the whole world gets vaccinated and nobody's left behind, right? So when you start to put these pieces together, it's really quite easy to see that the push is toward a global government that is a government where everything we do is tracked and traced. And really what's happening in China, China is the model for this. China is the model. I mean, have you guys seen what's happening in China? They already have cops walking around with augmented reality cameras, thermal, sit there and watch people and tell what their temperature is. And if your temperature is too high, they might drag you away and force vaccinate you. So my point here, and I'm probably getting a little too long-winded here with this whole video. My main point was to say, like, I'm back, I'm alive, I'm here on Facebook, and I'm going to be using this for the time being. I don't know what the timeline is here, but as long as this whole crazy thing is going on, I do think that I need to be here. I think to communicate with you guys because there's important information that's not being shared everywhere. So, just to kind of wrap up that thought, there is an agenda to push us towards being a part of this digital dystopia, what I call the technocratic state, what people call the technocracy. If you don't know what the technocracy is, you can look that up. I actually just wrote a new book, which you can download for free, and you can find out more about that. The key to the future. That's the thing, is crypto can be good in a lot of ways. But what the state wants is they want a state-controlled cryptocurrency or digital currency, blockchain, 5G backed smart control, smart grid, right? Where nothing is outside of their hands. Here's my book that I put out recently. It's called How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State. You can find it on .com under the books tab, and you can download it for free, okay? If you want to purchase a copy, you can. But this book that I released just a month ago in February, it's exactly about what we're dealing with. It's a world that is completely controlled, where the government forces you into a digital system. Social credit system. Have you heard of the social credit system? It's already in use in China. Sesame credit. Some of you guys watch TV. You watch that show Black Mirror. This is what we're headed towards. And this COVID-19 thing, it's pushing us towards that world. So we're already being told that you can't go out in public. You can't use public transportation. You want to social distance. You want to isolate yourself. So what happens when the pandemic slows down, right? And they start telling people they got the vaccine, and they start giving out the vaccine to people. Do you think you're going to be allowed to go back taking that vaccine? Do you think you're going to be allowed to go visit the library, use public transportation, use the grocery store? I believe that what we're going to see unfold over the next, I don't know, I'm not a big on, putting dates out there because your dates are always going to be wrong. But in the next 6 to year, let's say, depending on how long this rolls out, we're going to see the push for not only for the mandatory vaccination, and if it's not mandatory, they're going to use a digital system, something like a social credit system that I was telling you guys about, that's funded by the Melinda Gates Foundation, it's funded by the World Health Organization, where if you don't have your vaccine, you won't be able to be a part of polite society. You won't be allowed to participate in what everybody else is up to, right? So this is what we call social engineering. Instead of the state coming to you and putting a gun to your head and saying, they do it in a soft way. They basically lock you out of society until you conform. And if you don't conform, well, then you're not going to be allowed to participate with the rest of your people. And the thing about the system in China, the Sesame credit system, the social credit system, do you guys understand that? Do you understand what social credit is? It's like a credit score, but instead of being about your economic purchases, it's about the way you live a life. So if you understand the credit system works in China, for example, if you jaywalk, then your credit score goes down. If you post fake news, your score goes down. If you are a protester, you're talking bad about the government, your score goes down. But if you donate blood, then your score goes up. If you donate to the right charities, your score goes up. If you at certain times of the day, your score goes up. This is 100% fact. None of this is, I'm spitting truth here. So it's a way to socially engineer people because they don't have to put a gun to our head. You know, maybe we're going to see some sort of martial law, National Guard type system with this COVID-19, but at the end of the day, it's really going to be more about using the digital system to engineer what they want and to push people into that system. And as an example of this, let me show you this. A couple of days ago, Bill Gates did a AMA, Ask Me Anything, Reddit. And you can see here, this is reported from menshealth.com. Bill Gates answers every question you have about coronavirus. And there he is. There's a eugenicist, population control, sick man. And we scroll down here. Let's see. Okay, so the question says, how can businesses adapt to our economy while social distancing? Bill Gates says, eventually, we will have some digital certificates to show who has recovered or been tested recently, or when we have a vaccine, who has received it. So there's going to be a digital certificate to prove vaccinated or not. That's one of the ideas that Bill Gates is floating. And that's the thing is, you don't have to be in government to get your ideas done. In fact, Bill Gates is so rich, he can just spend money. He's funding geoengineering programs, which is spraying aerosols in the sky to stop climate change and to further mess with the world and plague. He pushes the ideas for digital certificates. In fact, have you guys seen that already in China, they're applying a QR code to people? So if you've had the virus, you know, they can know if you've had it, and if you've been vaccinated, you know, what the vaccine comes out. If you have the vaccine, well, they can know. So my point here is that everything that we're seeing unfold with the COVID-19 pandemic is leading to the technocratic state. I'm honestly, again, I have a friend who is pretty positive he has COVID-19, and he's dealing with it right now. And I appreciate everybody who's, you know, I pray for everybody to have a speedy recovery, whatever happens, right? I personally don't. We're past that point. People are dying. This is a real thing. But who caused it? How did it get? How did it come to being? We don't know those things, and we probably will never know these things. That's the point. You know, is that we can argue all day about theories, but at the end of the day, we know this. We know the powers that wish they were are seizing more control. They're going to use this for surveillance. They're going to use this for taking anything they can from us. In fact, if you guys just go do this little test, do this little exercise, go over to the CIA Google website and just type in the new normal and search and see how many articles you see that pop up that say it's time to adjust to the new normal. The new normal is here to stay. You know, go back from the new normal. And I put out a video yesterday called "It's Time to Reject the New Normal" because of this. And I would love for you guys to go watch this on the website or my YouTube channel. But just kind of a sample of some of the articles that I'm seeing. China's excessive coronavirus public monitoring could be here to stay. We're not going back to normal. Papers, please. France adapts to life on coronavirus lockdown. Yeah, in France, you have to show them your papers and give them a reason why you're walking around. South Korea winning the fight against coronavirus using artificial intelligence. You will adjust to the new normal. And in this insane piece from the Hill, shut us down already, Mr. President. This crazy guy was calling for martial law in the United States. Somebody please send him to China. Rarely used in modern times, quarantine laws give public officials wide-ranging powers. And of course, have you guys heard this? There are massive lines around the store to buy guns as people are buying weapons. So look, man, the reason I decided to come back is not just to tell you guys a bunch of stuff you already know. I know a lot of you are like, yeah, I'm right with you. This is, New World Order, global government agenda to force vaccines and stuff like that. I'm glad you get that. Some of you, maybe this is over your head or you think I'm crazy, whatever. Ears to hear and a heart to listen. This is what we are facing, probably some of the most difficult times that we have ever faced. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I feel like everything I've done in my life has prepared me for this time that we're dealing with now. We're being overrun with propaganda, with disinformation. We're being shamed into separating from other people. We're going to be shamed if you don't accept the vaccine agenda. You're going to be shamed if you even question the narrative. It's more important than ever for us to come together, rally together, and to question what's going on and to share this information with people. Because what's coming is going to be much worse than what we're already dealing with. And Spain, France, lockdown, papers please. California, shut down. New York, National Guard being called in. And there's so many rumors floating around. I'm sure you guys have seen them. We have 48 hours and FEMA's going to lock things down. The Department of Defense is going to lock things down. They've been saying the same things. I do think it's going to happen. I think it's inevitable. And I think that the politicians are lying to you. Of course, they're going to say, no, we have no plans to do that because they don't want us to freak out. We are witnessing the engineered collapse of the global economy. We are witnessing the collapsing of the United States, probably so that China can become the new superpower, so that they can set the tone for the future. And for those of you who think that somehow global government is a good idea, let me just ask you this. Just put this thought in your head. If you take China, which is a communist totalitarian nation that has complete control of their people, propagandized from cradle to grave, and you have the United States, which is a totalitarian democracy that pretends like, we're a free nation, and you have Russia and some of these other top nations, you throw them all together in a blender, pour out global government. Do you think you're going to get peace, freedom, and love? No, you're going to get control. You're going to get monitoring, complete lives. Guys, I'm going to show you a couple more articles here, and then I'm going to wrap it up here. This is from the Electronic Frontier. Facial surveillance is not the solution to COVID-19 crisis. Because why? Because this is the solutions that are being promoted. Facial recognition may seem convenient and useful, but is actually a deeply flawed technology that exposes people to constant scrutiny by the government. COVID-19, tracking data and surveillance risks are more dangerous than the rewards. We must guard against surveillance opportunists who will endanger public health and the health of our democracy. COVID-19 could provide cover for domestic surveillance expansion. The use of location data to help track and manage the pandemic should come with meaningful safeguards and expiration dates. It's right in front of your face. It's staring you in the face. It's looking like it's right here. What is happening is right here in front of you. And while all your friends and family are freaked out, and the celebrities and the influencers, because they're being used as part of this too, are telling you, oh, look, it's a good thing to social distance. We'll get used to this quarantine life. It's, hashtag quarantine life and all this kind of bullshit. They're trying to make it cool to think that we should isolate ourselves, that we should trust the government. And also, when the agenda rolls out, which will include some sort of digital ID, digital certificate, wristband, QR code, something of that sort, to prove that you are a good, clean citizen that's been vaccinated and is free of COVID-19, and will include a social credit system that will lower your credit score if you are antisocial or anti-government. And the most dangerous thing I should say about the social credit system, we already kind of covered the social credit system, but the most dangerous part is it's not just about you, but it's about your friends and family, right? So you got your mom and brother and friends, and they think you're the crazy conspiracy theorist, but you know what? They kind of put up with you. But what happens when, as is already happening in China, when you and your behavior affects their social credit score? So get this. If you go online and you post some questions like, hey guys, I don't think I trust this COVID-19. Maybe we should question Event 201. Maybe Bill Gates doesn't have our best, intentions in mind. Maybe we shouldn't just trust the government. Not only will your score go down, but your friends' scores will go down. And how long do you think it's going to take for your loved ones to say, hey, you know what, I love you, I really care about you, but I can't, if I keep hanging out with you, my score is going to go down. And the score isn't just some random number. In China, last year alone, over 1 million people were denied the right to fly out of their own country because their score was too low. In China, you can't get a loan if your score is too low. So think about that. When your friends and family want to go on vacation, but they're looking at their credit score and they're like, okay, my score is kind of low. If I keep hanging out with, crazy Joe over here, my score is going to keep going down. So, hey, Joe, you know what? I love you. You're my brother. You're my friend, whatever, but I can't hang out with you anymore because my score is going down. That's what we call social engineering. That is what's coming to the United States. That's what's coming to the entire world. That is their plan. And if you don't see it, then I need you to start thinking deeper. I need you to go check out my.com. You can dive in there, check out Wake Up News, check out some of the channels wherever you're listening to me from, and really start having a conversation, guys, because the reason I came back, just to kind of bring it back full circle, the reason I turned back on my Facebook page and the reason I'm here broadcasting to you guys on a platform that I absolutely hate because I can't stand Mark Zuckerberg, because I can't stand any of these people, and because they monitor, they control our lives, and because studies have shown that Facebook makes people depressed, it makes people envious. The reason I'm here is to give you a warning that if we don't start challenging these systems, and I'm not asking you to endanger your lives, I'm not asking you to go out there and violate you do whatever you think. I'm not going to tell anybody what to do. I left the United States. I'm now in Mexico right now, and today they announced that they're shutting the border. So I don't know when I'll get to go home to see family and friends, but I have a plan, I have a vision, and it's in my book that I just mentioned, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State. I'm not going to get into it right now, but find it, you can find the information. And I think that every single one of you, for one reason or another, we are tuned into each other. You're listening to me. You're hearing this either live or you're listening to this later on. And if you've made it this far into my talk, then I appreciate that. You're hearing this for a reason. You obviously care about what's going on in the world. You obviously don't trust the things you're being told. And you know a little bit about the lies that we've been fed. You are more important than you realize. Each of us are more important than we may recognize and realize. We are meant to be the leaders. We are meant to be the ones to step up to the plate. And maybe that means you might choose to leave your home country for somewhere you feel is relatively more free. Maybe that means you choose to hold down the fort and be there for your family and friends and take care of them when the shit gets an economic collapse. You put that are saying that they're not going to be going after people and arresting people for burglaries and for vandalism, things like that, and you put together food shortages and you put together lockdown, it's chaos. And if anything, we know that the powers that wish they were, what do they love? They love to create order out of chaos. So first they create the order, and then they come in with they come in and they create the chaos, and then they come with their order and say, here's the solution, here's the plan. So I'm telling you, my friends, you're hearing this for a message, not because I'm special or anything, because this is something that we are supposed to connect on. We are supposed to be the leaders of the next generation, of the current generation. It doesn't matter how old you are, where you're born. If you're hearing this, and if you have questions, and if you're concerned about what's happening, if you see the surveillance state that's growing, you see the push towards social credit, you see the push towards government in control of every aspect of our lives, the corporate state, the corporate technocracy, you need to wake up now. You need to push back. You need to do whatever you can. I don't know what all the solutions are, I claim to, but I know that if each of us around the world, if we share this video, other videos, I said earlier, if we think, finally swallow and believe everything you see in the alternative media, and definitely don't believe everything you see in the mainstream media, but think for yourself, think for yourself, question everything, question their motives, expose their lies. That's the only way we're going to get through this. Because otherwise, we are going to be locked out of society. They're going to probably force vaccinate plenty of people. Or if they can't force vaccinate us, if there's too many of us, they're just going to lock us out of society. They're going to shame us out. They're going to use the social engineering. They're going to use social credit and the digital 5G every aspect of our lives. And if you don't participate, well, then guess what? You can't fly. You can't buy food. You can't go to the library. In China, the government has said that their plan is that if you don't participate in the system, if you're antisocial, that you won't even be able to take a single step. Do you really think the US government, the UK government, the Australian government, the New Zealand government wouldn't try to do the same thing? I mean, we're seeing with this situation, they're more than willing to enact martial law light or lockdowns and quarantines, and most people welcome it. I see a couple of comments that you guys say that you have friends who are openly, huh? I don't know if this is, it says it's recording still. I'm trying to go live, but I probably just have to wrap this video up because it looks like it's not going to play. But look, let me just say the last thing I was saying. If you see what's going on, guys, it's time for us to step up to the plate. We can't be complacent anymore. We can't just use social media. We have to get out to the streets. We have to connect with people. We have to spread this information. Otherwise, we are leaving the coming generations a world of shit. We have to be the ones that are going to step up to the plate and that are going to help lead the way. It's up to us. There's nobody else coming. There's no QAnon. There's no, Trump or Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden or anybody that's coming to save the day. It's up to me. It's up to you. It's up to us to step up and to help each other and to help those in need. And this isn't some airy-fairy thing that I'm trying to say. I'm saying we're dealing with some real shit. We might watch people die, whether they die from a pandemic, from COVID-19, or whether they die standing up for their freedoms. But we are really in that situation that many of us have thought was coming. And I'm not the kind of person to just go online and put these kind of videos out and try to fear-monger or scare people. But I'm saying this because I think it's the truth. And if you see what I see, then please do whatever you can to wake more people up, to spread the information, and do not let them force you into things that are not going to help you grow as a person and that are not going to help you be more free. Do not let them indoctrinate your mind. Do not let them get here. This is the most important space, your heart and your mind. And that's what they want. They want to control our hearts and our minds. So we have to stay strong. We have to stay alive. We have to help build the next world, the better world. And the only way we can do that is by questioning and pushing back against them. My name is Derek Bros. You can find me at theconsciousresistance.com. I put out videos every week on YouTube. I'll be putting out videos now again on Facebook while this is all going on. Thank you to the Wake Up News and Zach and everybody who's supporting me. Thank you to the Mind Unleashed and everybody there. And to all those who've been loyally following my work, thank you very much. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. And now is the time for us to prove that we are free. Peace.